Bar for bar album reviews. Statik Selektah, The Balancing Act. The Balancing Act is the 9th studio album from legendary producer Statik Selektah. This project follows his last studio album 8, as well as his collab project TrillStatik that he did with Bun B last year. This project's been pretty long awaited, seeing as 8 dropped back in 2017, and it's definitely worth the wait. The Balancing Act comes in at a total runtime of 46 minutes with 16 tracks, and features a whole slew of artists, ranging from Joey Bada to Killer Mike to Bobby Sessions. It's definitely an enjoyable listen, and fans of the more boom bap sound are definitely in for a treat. This album is a little different to review than others, since it's not just one artist all the way through, but there's still consistency throughout it. Most every track follows this idea of the balancing act in one way or another. The balancing act starts off with the track The Healing, featuring Black Thought. Starting off a project with Black Thought is the best way to grab my attention, especially because I didn't take a look at the track list and features before listening to this album. This track goes pretty heavily into police brutality and the treatment of black people in America almost immediately, with the lines, "Ayo, I seen crooked cops aiming to please, they'll pop brothers in the back after they freeze. Innocent people stomped like they in stampedes. They choke out queens and call them chimpanzees." I think it's actually really important to have the song as the first track because it acts as a reminder to those who think things are going to change immediately just because the election's over. The balance that Black Thought is trying to create here is via the idea of equality. No one person or group is inherently better than the other. Another way that he's balancing is with the line, "I've been healing myself, that's another way to get equal." Which basically just sounds like he's creating a balance within himself by some sort of healing, probably spiritual. Next we have Keep It Moving with Joey Bada, Nas, and Gary Clark Jr. This track was the first single for the album and it really talks about keeping it moving. I have done a full breakdown for this track already, so if you wanted a deeper analysis, go check that out. But the song is really dope. It basically has Nas and Joey going bar for bar and trading verses. That in itself is a balancing act of sorts, but the bigger one that I can think of is at the end of each of their last verses, where Joey says, "I got love and respect for my OGs," and Nas says, "I rock with my young G's, that's just common sense." This creates a balance by acknowledging the old school and the new school, while also using similar wording to further it. Play Around features Allen Kingdom, Conway the Machine, 2 Chainz, and Killer Mike. The gist of this track is that these fine gentlemen are not to be messed with. Don't play around. There's not a whole lot to be said with this track. I mean, it's fairly straightforward. I did really like Conway's verse, especially the line, "I'm the GOAT, grimiest of all time when I spit this dope." Next we have a track from Dave East and Method Man, Hard Livin'. Dave East brings in 2 solid verses that are pretty introspective and reflective, where he talks about where he came from and a little bit about where he is now. He wants to be able to have all his homies with him because when he's winning, the whole team wins. Meth's verse has him speaking from back in the day, which is pretty dope as well. The balance here is going from the hard living to what they both have now, but it could also just be that Dave East played Method Man on the Wu-Tang show, so there's that balance. Also, even though Meth only had 1 verse, it really feels like he outshined Dave East here. I mean, I'm a fan of Dave East, but man, Meth just killed it. Moving on, Time is an interesting track from Jack Harlow. I personally haven't really listened to much of his music, so I can't say where this ranks in terms of what he normally does, but this track is hella solid. Here it feels like he's reflecting on some of the things that are going on in his life now, or recently at least. He wants to be with this girl that he's been thinking about, but when the time comes, he ends up wanting to focus on music again. He's a bit conflicted in terms of what he should be doing, which ties in directly into the balancing act. He says, "The girls I talk to want the truth from me directly, but I tell them in my music it's an awful way to do it." Which again is him having trouble balancing himself. It sounds like it's a lot easier for him to express himself through his music rather than in person, but that seems to not always work out the best for him and the people around him. Personally, I think it's a good way, but I guess in his experience it hasn't been. He also just brings up the idea of the balancing act again towards the end of the track with, "I feel like I'm going to get everything I want in time, but will it be in time? A pandemic and climate change at the same time doesn't make you feel like everything's fine. Quite the opposite. I'm a skeptic, but I'm still quite the optimist. He's not trying to contradict himself here or anything like that. It feels like he's more looking at both sides of each scenario, which ends up with a more balanced outlook. Next up, we get another track from Joey Badass with the song Watch Me. This song flips Check the Rhyme by A Tribe Called Quest on the chorus, which I like it. I'm a fan. It's been said before, but really whenever Statik and Joey work together, we get some dope tracks. And this is no different. He just flows so smoothly over this beat. It's ridiculous. The whole track just feels like Joey's aware that people are watching for him, almost as if he's got an album on the way or something. It's like he knows that people are looking for him and looking for an album from him, but he's also so in tune with what's going on that it's like he's watching them too. Next up is America is Cancelled, featuring Terminology, Jadakiss, and Styles P. The idea of this track is pretty straightforward and is pretty politically charged. Terminology starts off the track by bringing up a lot of the corporate and government greed in America. He also reminds us that even though we're getting a new president, we have to remember the mass incarceration that has happened in the past to black and brown people. No Substitute features Benny the Butcher and Paul Wall. This song is all about how there's no substitute for either of them. They both rap about where they came from and where they are now, as well as how good they are with this rap shit. On top of that, what they're trying to get at is that there's no substitute for hard work and dedication, which are attributes that they both have and have utilized to get to where they are today. The balance in this track is the in-between stages of their career where they were still doing stuff from their past lives while trying to get into the rap game. Just past the midpoint, we have Off My Mind with Rome Street's Fly Anakin and Haley Supreme on the chorus. Fly Anakin's verse is about a woman that he's been involved with and that he just can't get out of his mind. They've been together through the struggles where they would have to eat raw ramen, so it's understandable. Rome Street's verse is a little different. With his verse, he seems to be talking about keeping fake people at bay and money struggles from the people around him. Next we have Welcome to the Game featuring Marlon Craft, Kodo the Friend, and Haley Supreme on the chorus again. The track is about their place in the rap game. Marlon's a little bit newer than Koda, but they're both in a similar position where they're fairly unknown by many. However, they're both gaining a pretty significant following now and will likely continue to blow up. Koda brings up how we do in numbers in the millions but be A-list, which is crazy to think about because nowadays you really can have hella streams and followers but still not be known by everyone. This brings us to my favorite track on the album, Soul Custody, featuring Evidence and Blue. I just love Evidence and Blue in general, so I guess that's kind of cheating though. They both flow so well and similarly on the track, which makes it just so much better to me. The whole idea of this track is that you should be in control of your own soul, and no one else should have custody of it. This can be in regards to relationships, your career, or just things going on in your daily life. No one should be in control of you and your life except for you. In doing so, you'll be able to do pretty much everything you want to do. And ideally, you'll be happier while doing it too. That goes right into the next track, No More, featuring Lil Fame, Smoke DZA, and Rim the Villain. This track is about reminiscing about the old days and where they are all today, making sure to leave hatred and heartache out of the picture now. They're focusing on all the good things in life and letting the sunshine in. The track itself is pretty solid, and I think the main reason that I keep returning to it is because of the production. It's very uplifting, and it feels like a song that you could have on at the end of a movie where everything gets resolved and the main character has come up out of the dirt or something. Next, we have another one of my favorite songs on this project, Ralph Lauren's Closet, which features Thurston Howell and Sean Price. First of all, this beat is so sick. It's crazy. And it just allows Thurston Howell to flow so smooth over it. This is the first time I heard of him, and I fully look forward to hearing more from him. Now, some of you may know that I'm a pretty big fan of Sean Price, so when I heard his voice on this track, I got hella excited. He just sounds so good on damn near any beat. R.I.P. Balance Beam features JFK, CJ Fly, and Nick Grant, and is very much about balance. They took the idea of the balancing act and balance beam and applied it to family. The chorus, I think, does the best job of explaining it by saying, hold on to your family, hold on to your dreams, you must keep your feet on this balance beam. This to me is saying that if you have your family and your dreams, you'll remain balanced. Everything else that happens and everything else in life is secondary. But it could also be going into keeping a balance between the two of them, but that would make it sound too negative in my mind. Like, if that were the case, people would be like, nah, don't worry about your family, just focus on your dreams, or vice versa. Given that this track is fairly wholesome, I don't think that's the route that they were going for here. The album begins to wrap up with the track Way Up featuring Bun B, Havoc, and Haley Supreme. This track is in remembrance of many rappers that have passed away, including Pimp C and Prodigy. Both Bun B and Havoc's verses focus on talking about Pimp and Prodigy, but do so in a way that still ties it into the balancing act idea. Obviously, we feel sad when someone passes, but we also have to take into consideration all the good times that we had with them. We want to remember them in their best light and for all the experiences that were shared with them. And that's what they get into here. It's a really heartfelt track that I truly do enjoy. The final track on this album is Immortal, featuring Bobby Sessions and Harley Hall. Harley, if you aren't aware, is Statik's daughter, and her part on this track is just so adorable. I still think that Way Up was the proper ending to this album because it, it tied everything back together. But this one just feels like it's wrapping things up after the fact, but it's still a solid track. Bobby Sessions delivers a dope verse over a fairly light beat, which works really well. What he really seems to be getting at with this track is that the music and his words are going to be immortal, which makes sense. Assuming nothing catastrophic happens with music, I'm pretty sure all music's going to be immortal one way or another, or hopefully. Overall, this album was really dope. As I mentioned at the top of the video, it's a bit different to review a project like this because it's not just one artist all the way through. However, there was a lot of consistency in terms of subject matter and, obviously, the production. The theme of balance carried on pretty solidly throughout each track, and ended up being a bit different for each of the artists involved. Some took balance to be just between two different things, but others really took a step back and looked at balance in life as a whole. My favorite tracks here are Soul Custody, Ralph Lauren's Closet, Keep It Movin', The Healin', and Play Around. I feel like I could be forcing a theme onto this album, and it may really just have little to do with balance and is instead just a collection of dope songs produced by Statik Selektah. But either way, it's a solid-ass project, and I look forward to whatever comes next. Maybe another collab project along the lines of TrillStatik and Statik King, or maybe we'll just get right into album 10. Regardless, I'm excited. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this album and what are your favorite tracks. Also, like and subscribe if you want to see more reviews and other content like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.